Whoa! Hold up. Ashlee Jenae's body just touched down on U.S. soil, and you're out here celebrating like we won something. Nah, this ain't a victory. This is the exact moment the cover-up just went nuclear. Joe McCann is days, maybe hours, away from walking free, and the receipts that could have put him under the jail, they about to vanish into thin air. And Joe really thought sitting silent in that Zanzibar hotel room was the smart play? Bro just signed his own guilty plea in invisible ink. Before we get into it, subscribe, don't miss it. Nah? Ashlee Robinson. You'll know her as Ashlee Jenae, the 31-year-old Portland-based lifestyle influencer, was found unresponsive in a luxury Zanzibar villa during what was supposed to be a birthday and engagement trip with her fiancé Joe McCann. Her father, Harry Robinson, confirmed on X this week, "Our baby is back home in the States," after a $60K plus GoFundMe push to bring her home. Zanzibar police really thought slapping a suicide label on this and shipping her home would close it. Now let's look at the receipts that show why this is a trap. Alright, lock in. Let me walk you all through these receipts one by one, because the moment you stack them, the picture gets you GOY. Receipt 1. On April 15th, 2026, the Tanzania police force put out an official statement saying, and I quote, "Joe McCann continues to be questioned by the police force and his travel document has been withheld." When I read this, I was like, wait, witnesses don't usually have their passports yanked, do they? Bro, that's not helping with the investigation. That's "we don't trust you to leave." Receipt 2. The BBC reported, straight from Zanzibar police, Ashlee Robinson had died after attempting to take her own life. Bro said what? That's the same playbook we saw with Shanquella Robinson, and you'll know how that movie ended. When I heard this, I had to do a double take. They ruled it before the autopsy was even finalized. Make it make sense. Receipt 3. Ashlee's BFF Savannah Britt, who's been the family's voice this whole time, tweeted on X, "Ashlee Jenae's body has been returned to the United States. Please keep her family in your hearts and prayers as they await the results of the autopsy and as the investigation continues." That word "continues" is doing heavy lifting right there, y'all. Receipt 4. Ashlee's own mother, Yolanda, told ABC affiliate WBVI that her daughter called her saying she and McCann had argued and the hotel had to move them into separate rooms before she died. Hold up, let me rewind that. The hotel staff had to physically separate them. That ain't a little couple spat. That's a "we calling security" type of fight. And Joe really expected us to just accept the suicide story after that? Nah, you can't say that and expect grown folks to take you seriously. Receipt 5. Hotel staff in Zanzibar disclosed to investigators that Ashlee and Joe had a heated argument hours before she was found, with sources confirming staff intervention. Then, plot twist, a hotel attendant later came forward saying SHE was actually the last person to see Ashlee alive, conveniently removing Joe from the death scene. When I caught that switch up, I had to rewind 3 times. That timing? That's the dumbest flex I've ever heard. Receipt 6. Fortune magazine, a publication that does not play with hit pieces, confirmed Joe McCann is a founder of Asymmetric, a crypto investment firm, and he was held in Tanzania while his fiancée's death investigation unfolded. That line right there, that's where Joe's whole innocent grieving fiancé narrative lost the plot. Now that we got the quotes, let's connect the dots. Alright, you'll need to sit down for this part, because once you see the timeline, you can't unsee it. That argument happened just hours before she was found unresponsive. Hours, not days, not earlier in the trip. Hours. And the Sun reported the couple was placed in separate rooms by hotel staff that same night. So whoever's telling you all this was a peaceful evening followed by a tragic accident, they're either lying or they ain't read the timeline. That suicide ruling dropped before any toxicology reports came back. Yahoo confirmed the autopsy was complete, but the case is still listed as open, with full reports taking weeks to months. So Zanzibar declared the cause of death before the science even finished cooking. Bro, that's terrible police work. Or strategic police work. You decide. Joe's background? 4 to 5 years old. CEO of Asymmetric Crypto Fund. Estimated net worth around $45 million. With public reporting tying him to serious money trouble in 2025, including reported $100 million company hit. That's not scammer money. That's generational, foreign jurisdiction buying, witness flipping money. In Zanzibar, where the median wage is $81.50 a month, Joe's pocket change is somebody's entire bloodline. Any smart investigator would have realized that before letting the witness stay near witnesses. But Zanzibar isn't smart. That body release happened right after Zanzibar finished collecting physical samples, meaning the hotel room is now legally fair game to clean, sheets to toss, surveillance to overwrite. Most CCTV systems rewrite footage on a 7 to 30-day rolling cycle. Do the math from the day Ashlee died to today. The window is closing as we speak. So Joe's witness status held him just long enough for evidence to start auto-deleting? That's a move of someone who's desperate, or someone who's been advised by people who know exactly what they are doing. And the relationships? Ashlee was a stepmom to Joe's children. This wasn't some 3-month situationship. This was integrated, blended, ring-on-the-finger family, which is why his silence is so loud. No public statement. No call to her parents. No private investigator hired. Nothing. That's not grief. That's a legal strategy. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Now check this out. Nobody's talking about the specific language Zanzibar police used. Read it again with me. Joe was questioned as a witness, not a suspect. That single word, witness, is a calculated legal landmine. Witnesses don't get charged. Witnesses don't get tried. Witnesses get released. By framing him this way from day one, Zanzibar gave themselves a clean exit ramp where nothing he said can be used against him later in a criminal trial anywhere. That's not random word choice. That's surgical. And Joe really didn't catch how that protects him? Nah, his lawyers caught it. They counted on it. Now zoom in on the phrase, attempting to take her own life, from the BBC quote. Not took her own life. Attempting. That's medical speak for she was found alive but didn't survive. Which means there was a window, minutes, maybe longer, where someone was in that room with her before she was transported. Who was that someone? Joe says it was him and 2 security guards. The hotel attendant later says it was her. 2 stories. 1 scene. If Joe had half a brain trust around him, they would have gotten the story straight before talking to police. They didn't. That's embarrassing. Then there's the Zanzibar police chief's choice to publicly disclose details only after social media exploded. Before the internet caught wind, the family said they were getting nothing, radio silence. Once Cardi B retweeted, once Joe Budden talked about it, once Academics went live, suddenly the police had a press conference. That's not transparency. That's damage control. That's the problem with Zanzibar's whole approach. They don't read between the lines. They just react to the trending tab. And the location forensics? She was found in a closet, according to early police reports out of the Zanzibar villa. A closet, in a luxury suite, hours after a fight so loud the staff split the couple into separate rooms. If you're truly investigating that scene, you're dusting for prints, swabbing for DNA, pulling every camera angle within a 200-foot radius. If you're trying to close it quick, you photograph a closet and write self-inflicted. Which one do you think Zanzibar did? Now let's see how the media covered this. Here's where it gets wild. Different outlets are framing this story like they are covering different cases entirely. Complex framed it as a tragedy of a fiancé under questioning while emphasizing the GoFundMe and the family's grief, keeping the focus on emotional fallout rather than the criminal angle. Soft framing. Sympathetic to all parties. Notice they didn't lean into the argument detail. Compare that to the New York Post, which led hard with the explosive fight at Zanzibar Hotel right in the headline. Different angle entirely. They want you thinking suspect, not sympathetic. Then EUR, where we're the most direct, straight up title their coverage around the family rejecting the suicide ruling and demanding investigation. That's the framing the family probably wishes everyone used. Fortune, meanwhile, zoomed out completely and made it about the crypto industry, profiling Joe as a high-flying fund manager caught in a crisis, almost framing him as a central figure whose life is being disrupted. That's a businessman in trouble lens. Notice how the victim becomes secondary in that framing? That's exactly what wealth and access buys you. Now some Joe McCann supporters online are saying this is all speculation, and that the family is going on the offensive is premature. Some are hiding behind, he hasn't been charged, like that's the same as cleared. Those are the same people who thought Shankwella Robinson got justice. The receipts don't lie even when the framing tries to. Joe's defenders are reaching trying to spin this. But here's what nobody is saying. Mainstream media wants you to believe this is just another tragic vacation story. 2 outlets will tell you the family is grieving, a couple will tell you Joe is being questioned, and within 3 weeks they'll all move on to the next clickable headline. That's the official narrative. Here's what they won't tell you. This isn't about Joe. This isn't even really about Zanzibar. This is industry politics at the highest level, the intersection of crypto money, foreign tourism economics, and a black woman's body being used as a bargaining chip in negotiations she never consented to. Joe McCann sits at the head of a $1.50 billion adjacent crypto operation. Zanzibar's entire economy is roughly 70% dependent on tourism. The hotel where Ashlee died is part of a luxury chain whose brand reputation is worth millions per quarter. You really think these 3 pillars are about to let one woman's death disrupt their ecosystem? Nah. They're going to protect the ecosystem at all costs, and Ashlee's case is a cost. Joe is a puppet in a much bigger play, and the labels, the lawyers, the publicists, the diplomatic channels, are pulling strings he probably doesn't even fully see. The industry needs this case to fade quietly. A loud, drawn-out homicide investigation against a wealthy white American CEO in an African tourist destination? That headline could tank Zanzibar tourism for a decade. It could trigger State Department travel advisories. It could nuke crypto investor confidence in international fund managers. There are too many people with too much money who need this to be a suicide. That's why the timeline moves the way it moves. Remember that suicide ruling? The real reason it dropped so fast wasn't incompetence. It was the most economically efficient outcome for everyone except Ashlee. Remember that hotel attendant suddenly appearing as a new last witness? The real reason that flip happened was to insulate the hotel from civil liability while creating an alibi Joe didn't have to ask for. Remember those separate rooms? The real reason staff intervened wasn't customer service. It was documenting an incident severe enough that the hotel knew they might need a paper trail later. We've seen this exact playbook before. Shanquella Robinson in Mexico, suicide-adjacent ruling, evidence vanishing, family begging for justice, social media holding the line until the system outweighted us. Natalie Holloway in Aruba, different victim, same machinery, decades of stalling. The pattern isn't random. It's a template. And Joe is repeating the same mistakes that ended bad outcomes for families before. Except for him, those mistakes aren't mistakes. They're strategy. Stay silent. Don't post. Don't issue statements. Let the local government do the heavy lifting. Wait for the news cycle to die. Resurface in 6 months when nobody's watching. And that's the real reason Joe hasn't said a single public word. Not grief. Not shock. Not legal advice. Strategy. A 45-year-old crypto CEO worth 8 figures with crisis PR teams on retainer doesn't accidentally go silent for weeks. That's a calculated communications blackout designed to starve the story of oxygen. Joe is playing checkers? Nah. Joe is playing chess, and his queen piece is a suicide ruling. The forbidden truth is this. The American justice system is structurally incapable of getting Ashlee justice without sustained public pressure forcing the issue. The FBI cannot legally compel Tanzania to do anything. The State Department can only request cooperation. If Zanzibar closes a case as a suicide, even an independent U.S. autopsy contradicting that ruling won't automatically trigger charges. It would require federal indictment under the rare statute covering murder of a U.S. national abroad, and those cases take years, sometimes never resulting in conviction. Joe's whole persona of respectful silence is manufactured, and it's banking on the fact that you'll get bored and scroll. He's watching the culture move on without him having to say a word, and there's nothing the family can do about it unless WE refuse to let it happen. And that's the truth they won't tell you. So what happens next? Here's what's most likely to happen in the next 7 to 14 days. Zanzibar is going to formally close the case as a suicide by undetermined means. Citing toxicology reports they'll keep partially sealed. Joe's passport gets returned within days of that ruling. He boards a private flight, not commercial, watch, and land somewhere with weak extradition treaties or nowhere at all if he goes straight back to the U.S. Within 30 days, the news cycle will have moved on to the next headline. Within 60 days, his name disappears from search trends. When Joe gets back on U.S. soil, he's gonna look like a free man because he is a free man. The legal expert quoted in our research said it plain. A U.S. citizen cannot be automatically arrested in America for something another country ruled non-criminal. The silence Joe maintained throughout this nightmare is gonna pay dividends, except for the family, who'll be screaming into a void that's already moved on. This scenario favors Ashlee's family ONOY if they get an independent U.S.-based forensic pathologist to perform a second autopsy before burial or cremation. Once she's interred or cremated, that door slams shut forever. Mark my words, that 7-day window after her body lands is the most legally critical period of this entire case. Now, if the family moves quickly and gets that independent autopsy done, and the findings contradict Zanzibar's suicide ruling, we enter a very different timeline. The FBI's legal attaché at the U.S. Embassy in Tanzania could request the case be reopened. Federal prosecutors could open a preliminary investigation under the motto of a U.S. national abroad statute. If that happens, Joe is not ready for what's coming. Suddenly, his strategic silence becomes a liability. Every minute he didn't speak gets re-examined. Every business deal gets paused. Every crypto investor pulls funds. We saw what happened to other high-profile suspects when federal investigations engaged. Joe doesn't stand a chance of keeping his $45 million empire intact under that level of scrutiny. But even in this scenario, the Tanzanian side evidence is likely already gone. The closet's been cleaned. The CCTV's been overwritten. The hotel staff has been reassigned. So even with a federal investigation, the evidentiary mountain is steep. Justice in this lane takes 2 to 5 years minimum. The family better be in this for the long haul. Looking at the bigger picture, the civil trial play. If criminal evidence doesn't survive, the family can pursue a wrongful death civil suit on U.S. soil under the Nicole Brown Simpson framework. Lower burden of proof, more likely than not, monetary damages. Joe's $45 million net worth becomes a target. This is gonna be the moment that defines the next decade of Americans dying abroad cases. Either Ashlee's family breaks a pattern and forces accountability through civil court, or the template gets reinforced. Kill an American overseas, lawyer up, wait it out, walk away. 5 years from now, people will look back at this case as either the turning point or the confirmation that wealth plus foreign jurisdiction equals impunity. For Joe specifically, even without a conviction, the cultural verdict is already being written. His name is now permanently search engine attached to Tanzania, fiancé death, and Zanzibar. Crypto investors have memories. Future business partners will Google. Every dating profile gets a background check. He's watching the culture move on without him being able to fully come back, and there's nothing his money can do about that public record. Whatever happens, one thing's clear. Joe already lost a court of public opinion. The only question is whether the legal system catches up. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed uncovering the real story, smash that like button and hit subscribe so you never miss when we expose what everyone else is too scared to say.